This is India at 9, broadcasting live from the CNN IBN headquarters in New Delhi with Rajdeep Sardesai.
On our talking point tonight, Dr. Jayprakash Narayan, President of Lok Satta, joins us. Yogendra Yadav, Senior Fellow CSTS, but now a member of Kejriwal's party. In fact, I'm told he's resigned now from CSTS. Harish Salve, Senior Lawyer, joins us, former Solicitor General, and Shivanand Tiwari, Member of Parliament of the Janata Dal United. Jayprakash Narayan, you were an IAS officer. You started a political party, Lok Satta. It's been on for more than a decade. You're the one MLA now of the party. Would you concede it's going to be very difficult? That it is not an easy adventure to enter this world of politics? Or do you believe that Arvind Kejriwal can be different?
Rajdeep, there's no doubt that it's an incredibly complex thing.
Yes.
Because politics is about the most competitive enterprise anywhere in the world. And in India, perhaps it's much more so.
Yes.
And you know, what I think all of us should realize with great humility is that the existing political parties have certainly failed.
Yes.
But it's not because they're all villains.
Yes.
This notion that they're all villains and that we're all heroes is a very dangerous one. They're more victims of a vicious cycle. If you understand that with humility, if you bring more and more people who are reviling politics, shunning politics, running away from politics, if you bring them into the political mainstream, make them participants, I think it will be a worthwhile endeavor. But if we think that we have answers where they have none,
yes,
and if somehow that they're all the evil of this country, evil incarnate, then that's, I think, not a very happy situation. And you know, we must realize that honesty is the minimum requirement in public life.
Right.
We cannot make it the maximum qualification.
That's an
A lot more is required. You require a coherent philosophy.
Right.
You require a sense of the role of the state, what exactly the state is about, and most of all, Rajdeep, you require to understand that there's always a clash in the political life of any country between the short-term political price you have to pay for difficult decisions and the long-term public good you have to promote. Nobody wants high taxes.
Right.
Nobody wants high prices.
Yes.
But you have minimal resources, limited resources, you have unlimited needs, and therefore somehow you have to reconcile. That is the function of politics, to do it harmoniously between groups, between competing claims, between options, between choices. I think unless we understand that, we cannot play a very creative political role.
That's an interesting point that you're making. The Yogendra Yadav, I gather you're sensing the skepticism, dare I say cynicism, that is pouring through about the decision to form a political party. As someone now who is part of this new party, are you worried about the gap between idealism and reality? That yes, you can be idealistic, but the reality out there in a caste-ridden, money-driven world of politics is going to be very different.
Rajdeep, I actually think most of the speakers have made very sensible points. These are points that need to be taken on board, especially the point that Jayprakash Narayan has made.
You concede that, you can come with all the vision documents that you want. How do you win an election?
That's the point.
You win an election by approaching the people. You win an election by giving them a credible vision of what the alternative would be like. And dare I say, Rajdeep, that because of the larger notion of politics that I believe in, I would not judge political parties only by how they do in the first election. For me, the important thing is, do small political parties, and it is a very small political party right now, do small political parties make a change to the agenda, and small political parties do make a change to the agenda of politics. For me, the question is whether it can change even slightly the rules of the game. Can it force the big political parties to give tickets to their own honest workers?
But let me take that to Jayprakash Narayan. You worked in Andhra Pradesh. Many believe, along with the Maharashtras and Karnatakas, it's one of the most corrupt states in the country. Last 15 years, Lok Satta has been trying to change the system. Have you been able to do it? You're the most well-intentioned person that one has met in a long time. You've tried to make changes in the system, and yet have you been able to succeed? In the corruption-ridden world of Andhra Pradesh, have you been able to change the way Andhra is governed?
You're talking about Rajdeep, this impatience is dangerous, I must very humbly add. You know, a nation of 1.2 billion people with a long 5,000-year history cannot change overnight just because you and I think so. It requires persuasion, it requires mobilization, it requires evolution of policies, it requires a consensual approach, it requires inclusive approach, it requires systemic changes bit by bit. And therefore, to now judge anybody, whether it's the Prime Minister of the country or a political party in office or a fledgling party now being formed, or parties have already been formed, or established parties, To expect them to dramatically change India overnight will be somewhat unrealistic. That's not the way any society changes. What's required is, are we really building a roadmap? Are we really building a framework in which change is possible? Let's first acknowledge the fact that politics is now much reviled in this country.
Yes.
The best and the brightest are shunning politics.
Yes.
It's only the money bags and the sons and daughters of politicians and a few accidental entrants into politics that are really in the political process.
Yes.
And increasingly, the people who really are fit for governance of the country are really only fit for Rajya Sabha. They're not fit for Lok Satta because they're not electable. Now, does that make them totally incompetent? No. It's because we have a horrid electoral system. We have a terrible political culture. The established parties realize that. And if all of us together try and make a point that, look, we need to change the political culture, we are all desperately
you make a very good
around
point.
to try and find an alternative.
Yeah.
Whether those in parties or outside the political parties, that's the right point to make. The challenge is that of the political parties. Why do you require new political parties? Barack Obama did not have to form a political party because he could join an established political party and through democratic and honest methods without anybody's blessings could actually mobilize public opinion and his own party's opinion and become a leader. Now, do we have that condition in this country? Can a group of individuals change a political party's course in this country?
Jayprakash Narayan, let me give you the final word in a sense, because you've actually more than dipped your toes into politics. What's been the biggest challenge? As a middle class professional, IAS officer, takes the risk, jumps into politics, what has been the biggest challenge and the biggest learning for you?
There are two great challenges, Rajdeep. The first is, we don't have enough leadership in this country willing to pay the price, make the sacrifice to play a creative role in public life, because it's incredibly hard life. And if you really want to be a part of ethical politics, and there are many, many ethical people in the existing political parties, let me remind you,
yes,
they pay a huge price in an uncertain life, and they get a lot of flack. And not many people who are criticizing the system are willing to play that leadership role and sacrifice. And that really is a great challenge.
Right.
It's not enough for us to criticize the existing parties that they're all bad, they're not giving space.
Right.
But when the space is available, I don't think enough people in the country are willing to pay that price. The second great challenge is the electoral system. Now, just look at Congress and BJP, the two great parties of India, with all resources, with all public attention, with all publicity, with all leadership. Still, in states where they don't really matter much, they're not able to much of an impact together.
Right.
Look at parties elsewhere in the world. In the first past the post system, for a third party to become relevant is incredibly tough. And people always, they may want you, but ultimately they don't vote for you because they think the vote for you is wasted.
Yes.
So we have these two challenges, and unless the existing political parties also realize that India has now reached a stage where a political transformation is increasingly difficult, politics that ought to be the solution has become the problem.
Yes.
It is not merely the problem of the critics, it's not merely the problem of the challenges and upstarts. It is the problem of established political parties. They must find a way out, and
right,
all of us must together work for that transformation. And I think in a way, what Yogendra is expressing is a cry of despair, not only romanticism but also a cry of despair.
Fair enough.
If everything is honky-dory, if the political system functions the way it ought to, then we don't have to really make these very difficult choices.